Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to today's Play Attention webinar. My name is Gwen Sorley, and I will be your host today. I really do appreciate you taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about play attention and how we can customize a neurocognitive training plan to improve executive function. So I appreciate you coming back today. Remember, this will be a program, Play Attention, you can incorporate alongside with the Silver Mines program we discussed in yesterday's webinar. If some of you are not familiar with Silver Mines, that is our division that focuses on cognitive vitality for seniors. So if you are interested in that course as well, and you're really focused on the different steps you can take in order to stay cognitively sharp as a senior, I think we're still young after the age of 60. Just type in webinar and I'll make certain that you get that webinar recording as well. So as I look at this list again, I notice that many of you here have been to our past webinars. And when you come to our other webinars, typically we're talking about different areas of executive function, such as organization and how to prioritize, decision fatigue, how to manage your time. So we talk about all of these different areas, and we always give tips and strategies, something that you can use in your day to day. But at some point, we have to get to the root cause, right? We have to talk about the root cause and how we can develop skills because that is critical to your functioning in the day to day. I can tell you how to create a to-do list. I was speaking with a woman not too long ago, and she said, everyone keeps looking at me and saying, just write a to-do list. And she said, I can write a to-do list. I start every morning with a beautiful to-do list. The problem is, at the end of the day, I didn't get anything done on that to-do list. So, what do we need to help her with so that she can actually use that strategy so that it makes sense for her? Well, when you think about a to-do list, there are a lot of skills you need in order to implement that. First, we have to improve her memory so that she remembers she has a to-do list. Then we have to work on sustained attention so that when she starts number one, she's able to sustain her attention until completion. We have to work on impulse control so that she doesn't start number one and impulsively jump down to number three. We have to work on filtering distractions so that when she's working on number two, she's not suddenly distracted by the laundry in the corner of the room and think maybe that should be a priority, right? There are all types of skills that we really need to develop so that that one strategy makes sense. So how many of you here, you can use the raise your hand icon or type in yes or an example. How many of you here have watched YouTube or maybe TikTok or Instagram and you see all of these people giving you different tips and strategies and recommendations on what you should do? And you think, but why doesn't it work for me? I've tried that and it just doesn't seem to work for me. Yeah, a lot of you are raising your hand. Exactly. And that's because the strategies are good. We want you to have the strategies, right? But again, in order for the strategies to actually work, if you have attention difficulties or weak executive function, we have to get to the root cause and start developing skills. And that's what we're going to focus on today. How can we develop those skills you need for strong executive function? So we specialize in one thing, and that is that we help you reach your goals. We have been doing neurocognitive training plans for over 30 years. I've actually been using Play Attention with my clients since 1996, so right around 30 years right now. And what we do is we assess your particular needs and then we develop a customized plan. And we integrate feedback technology with that cognitive skill training and behavior shaping. And we're going to get into that process. But we were the pioneers in neurocognitive training. And it was our founder, Peter Freer, who started researching different types of attention training techniques. And he came across the work that Dr. Pope and Dr. Paulson were doing in the 1980s, and they were working at NASA. And what they were doing is they were integrating feedback technology with their simulator training, with their pilots and astronauts. So when they were very attentive while doing their job, then all of the controls were easy to use, very easy to manage. Everything was automatic. But if they got stressed or distracted, they weren't as attentive, then everything became a bit sluggish, harder to do their job. And so that integration of allowing the individual to see their attention in real time while practicing their job was amazing. And our founder thought, well, that's brilliant. If I can show my clients their attention in real time while working on cognitive skills, then I have a comprehensive program. So tell me, what what are your goals? Why are you here today? Go ahead and type in because I know you saw how to develop executive function as the title and you thought that was interesting for you. So you must have a goal in mind. Go ahead and type that in the chat box. Are you an adult and you want to develop skills in order to be more productive? Maybe you're a parent and you're here because you have a really bright child who seems to be struggling to get assignments done in a timely manner. You might be a professional and you want to help your clients develop executive function. Corey says he's here because he wants to help his son. Danny says parent with a child struggling to do tests. Okay, excellent. And Danny, we're going to talk about how you can do that practice test while connected to our body wave armband so we can really get that transfer and generalization, and also how to lessen that anxiety so that your child can recognize when he or she is becoming anxious and how to better control that, because that's a real challenge with that test anxiety. Derek says, I want to learn how play attention can help my daughter who's with emotion regulation and executive function. Great. Jean says adult needs to stay on list, focus, stay on track, and organize. Excellent. So you see, we have a variety of individuals here. And so we are going to show you how we can customize a plan for each individual. And it is important because some of you are parents here looking at play attention for your child. Jessica says she's looking at play attention not only for her daughter, but also for herself. So keep in mind, you can work with any age from 5 all the way up through adulthood. So it's appropriate for all ages. And remember, what makes us unique and effective is what we teach and how we teach it. As I mentioned, Play Attention is the only program available that integrates feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping to provide you with the most comprehensive approach available. So you see my graphic, and some of you may have seen this in the past, but this is our body wave armband. On the back, there are 3 sensors. And when I slide this armband on my arm, those sensors are now monitoring my brain activity that tells us how attentive I am. And then that information is given over to the computer where I'm allowed to control all of the cognitive exercises just with my mind, or more specifically, my attention alone. And I receive constant and immediate feedback as to whether or not I truly am focused and paying attention. And that is a really important first step in the learning process. Because if you think, and go ahead and type in your answer in the chat box, when you look at your child or your partner, or maybe even a client, and you say, I need you to pay attention, what do they typically say back to you? Or maybe you're an adult here and someone says that to you. What do you say in return? So you say, I need you to pay attention. What do you hear back? I want to see if you're hearing the same thing I was hearing. Right. Exactly. Danny, Derek, you both say, they say, I am. Exactly. I am paying attention. And they really think that they are, but they just haven't developed what it takes for them to stay very attentive to low stimuli for long periods of time. So, what we're going to do is take that very abstract concept and make it concrete and controllable. So now you actually see your attention, you feel what you're doing, and you're allowed to practice not only just attention, but all of the other cognitive skills that, again, may be challenging, but required for strong executive function. So keep in mind, no matter what you're working on within play attention, whether it's attention stamina or working memory or task completion or mindfulness, you have to be paying attention. If you're not paying attention, then the activity will stop or the character will go in the wrong direction, and you have to focus back in order to continue. And the reason we do this is because we know that brain change doesn't just occur, right? There has to be certain catalysts in place in order to spark that brain change. And we incorporate those catalysts into play attention. So the very first catalyst necessary for brain change is attention. You can have a great teacher, you can have a great counselor, but if you're having a hard time paying attention to that individual or the process, then it's hard to get maximum benefit. So that's why we make certain that no matter what you're working on within play attention, you are actively engaged. The second catalyst required is challenge. We all love to be really successful, right? But if you come into a learning situation and you're 100% successful, then we're not going to spark any brain change because you've already mastered it. There's no changes necessary. You've mastered it. So we have within the body wave technology, we have what's called a auto adjust algorithm. And that means when you put that body wave armband on, we're only looking at your best ability to pay attention. And the bar is set there. If you're able to reach or exceed that level of attention, then in the background, we raise the bar just a little bit. So you reach that level of attention, you're able to activate the exercise. If you're able to maintain that level of attention for a given number of seconds, then we raise the bar. Now you have to be that much more attentive in order to be successful. Now, the opposite is true as well, because I know some of you may be thinking, well, I'm already frustrated, or my child's already frustrated with attention. I don't want them to be frustrated in this environment. So the opposite is true too. If you start getting a little fatigued, you can't reach that same level of attention, then we bring that bar back down to your last successful level and we gradually build you up again. So we're always keeping it at that challenging yet success-based pace. And then also deliberate practice because you don't want to just come into a learning situation and go through the motions, right? Let's say you're a golfer and you want to get better at golf. You don't just go out on the golf course with a bucket of balls and hit those balls over and over and over again, right? You have a specific goal in mind when you're practicing. And that's what we incorporate within play attention is that deliberate practice model. So when you finish a specific exercise, such as time on task, then Sheer Genius, our artificial intelligence, is going to take that data and set a mini goal for the next time. So you completed time on task today with 70% attention. Tomorrow, let's try 72%. And if you do that, you earn a point. So those are the catalysts required for brain change. And when we're talking about improving executive function, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about sparking brain change. And these catalysts, attention, challenge, deliberate practice, are all incorporated within your play attention program. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing this integration of feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping for over 30 years. But Tufts University School of Medicine wanted to know, is that integration important? Or can we just give you a series of cognitive exercises or what you've heard about as brain games or brain training apps and get the same results. So they had three different groups of individuals, all identified as ADHD. The first group received play attention, so they had full integration. The second received just cognitive exercises, so brain games on the computer, no feedback technology, and no behavior shaping. And the third was their control, and they received no intervention at all. And at the end of the study, the play attention individuals were the only group that showed global improvements in all areas. And that's important to remember. Global improvements. That means they didn't just get better in the game, because when you hear about brain games or brain training apps, oftentimes you hear, well, they get better in the games, but not necessarily in life. And this is what Tufts was looking at. They showed global improvements with play attention in all areas. That means those individuals transferred and generalized these skills in academics, social, behavioral, and executive function. They were also the only individuals that, if they started the study and were on medication, because some of them were on, some of them were not, but if they were on medication and in the play attention group, those individuals had an average decrease in their medication, where the other two groups had an average increase. And that goes back to skill building. If we can help you develop skills, then there may be less of a necessity to mask symptoms. So you can use play attention whether you're on medication or not on medication. Medication does work for many people by controlling symptoms. This difficulty is that medication doesn't teach any skills or change behaviors. So we don't want to medicate and fail to educate. We want to use this time to help you develop skills. And that's what play attention can do. It can teach the skills that medication alone cannot teach. So great studies. They even did follow-ups to make certain that those skills maintained. If you'd like for us to send you links, if you didn't see those on our website, type in Tufts and we'll make certain that you get the links for those studies if you wanted to review those further. So now I want to share with you play attention in action, because I think it's really critical that you see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about feedback, because that is so important. And, the reason we incorporate that feedback is because it's, like we said, important to the learning process. But also, when we can take it from the abstract and make it concrete, it is something you can actually learn and practice. Because right now, if you think about how we try to teach attention, what do we do? Well, typically we just look at the other individual and we say, I need you to pay attention. Sit still. Eyes on me. Pay attention, right? We try to tell them what to do. That doesn't work. So now I'm going to show you how we incorporate feedback to make it concrete. But before we do that, I'm going to take a quick poll because I need to make certain that everyone understands. Okay? So you should see the poll on your screen. If you don't, I'm going to read it to you and you can type in your questions. So, or your answer. What does the body wave armband monitor? What does that body wave armband monitor? Is it A, eye movement, B, breathing, C, brain activity, or D, FM radio? What is that body wave armband monitoring? Is it eye movement, breathing, brain activity, or FM radio? Okay, I'm going to close this in 3, 2, 1. The correct answer is brain activity. That is the correct answer, brain activity. It is not breathing. It is not eye movement. Because remember, attention originates in the brain. Your breathing can help you with your attention. Your eye movement can help you. Oftentimes we'll say eyes on me because that helps give you a center of focus. But attention originates in the brain. So if we're going to show you your attention in real time, we have to show you your brain activity indicative of attention. And that's what that body wave armband is listening for. It's listening for that moment when your brain is giving off that electromagnetic signal that we know of as attention. Okay? All right, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to switch my sharing here so that you can see the play attention interface. And just know that when I switch over here, I will no longer be able to see your questions. So keep your questions coming because I will address your questions, but just know I can't see them in real time right now. All right, so this is the play attention dashboard, and you'll notice that we have lots of different cognitive exercises on the screen. Now, you won't need all of these exercises. That's where the customization comes in. So, what's important to keep in mind, remember, whatever you're working on within this, they're all brain enabled, meaning I have to be paying attention in order to activate any of these exercises. Okay, so that's critical to remember. But we're going to look at your specific needs or your child's specific needs, and we're going to assign you a focus coach, one of our coaches here on staff, to assist you every step of the way. And that person is going to take that information in order to set up your profile and prioritize which cognitive exercises are most important for you or your child or your clients. Okay. So, right now, I'm going to go ahead and share with you attention stamina. This is teaching how to direct and sustain your attention to low stimuli at will, much like being able to pay attention to the teacher in the classroom or your colleagues in the workplace. And I can choose from different characters. But one is this dolphin. When I click play, the very first thing you're going to see is a transition screen. So in a moment, you're going to see your game is loading, and that's just helping me transition from our conversation into the actual exercise itself. Now, once we get past this, you're going to see my character at the
Focus.
top of the screen, and my attention meter is white. Now I'm going to turn my volume down just a little bit so you can hear me. And that's because I'm not paying attention. I'm distracted. I'm talking to you. So now I'm going to stop our conversation. I'm going to pay attention to my task. Once I'm paying attention, I'm going to be able to swim him all the way down to the bottom of the ocean just with my attention alone, just with my mind alone. So I'm going to stop, focus in. Now I'm going to distract myself. Notice what happens when I get distracted. Immediately that character starts to float up because I'm no longer as attentive. And this is monitored, remember, by the body wave armband, monitoring my attention in real time and letting me to see it. So now, remember that distraction can be a variety of things. It could be daydreaming, it could be anxiety, it could be someone walking into the room and I can't filter that noise. Immediately, I get that feedback. Now I know I have to control that behavior, control that daydreaming, focus back in. So you see, it's kind of like a piece of exercise equipment for the brain. We're working areas that right now are challenging. And when I can be provided with that constant and immediate feedback, I'm then able to develop the self regulation and self monitoring I need in order to recognize when I'm paying attention, recognize when I'm not paying attention, and more importantly, when I'm not, I'll know how to correct it because you've given me the opportunity to actually practice it. So that is so powerful, so much more powerful than just looking at the other individual and saying, I need you to pay attention. Right now, you're providing them with that experience. They see their attention, they feel what they're doing, and they're allowed to practice. Now, you'll notice a few things. One is that our graphics, you noticed our graphics. That's about as exciting as they get. All of our graphics are very simple. They are very low stimuli. And the reason we do this is because we know if we give you something high stimuli or high interest, you can pay attention in those situations. We don't need to teach how to pay attention to high interest. What we need to teach is what's more challenging, and that's how to pay attention to low stimuli, much like the classroom teacher or the workplace, where it cannot possibly compete with that high stimuli. So that's why everything is presented very simply, so that you can learn how to pay attention to that low stimuli at will. Then all of your data is stored for you. So you see here, I worked on this particular exercise, and I worked on that exercise, and right down here, actually, I'm looking at the wrong one. So I worked on that particular exercise for 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Of that time, I was actually paying attention 67% of the time. And my recovery speed, which is from the time I lost my attention to the time I regained it, was right around 3 seconds. Now, sheer genius, the artificial intelligence, is going to use that information to not only document progress, but then to set those mini goals that we talked about. So the next time I log in, Sheer Genius will say, okay, yesterday you completed this with 67% attention. Today, let's try 69%. And if you do that, you earn a point, and the point goes into your reward system. So you're going to have Sheer Genius, that artificial intelligence, who's constantly customizing your plan based on your performance. So we're going to document your progress, set those mini goals, track rewards, and then you'll notice here that there is a bronze, silver, and gold medal. So there are certain benchmarks you're going to have to reach before moving up to intermediate and then to advanced. And again, the artificial intelligence is going to track those benchmarks and graduate you when appropriate. And when we move you up, we're going to tie in more processes required for executive function, such as processing speed, impulse control, distractors, and mental flexibility. So it gets a little bit more complex. There are times where you're going to have to respond to certain stimuli using the mouse or the keyboard, but you're still driving everything with your attention. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our other screen here. And again, please do keep your questions coming if you have any questions. Just takes me a moment to switch back over here. All right, and hopefully you'll be able to see me again on the other screen. So isn't that so powerful? And it's so empowering. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with some of my clients who are especially preteen or teenagers, they feel like everything is outside of their control. And now they're actually going to be rewarded for paying attention, and they're going to see that in real time. So you notice that we work on a variety of different cognitive exercises. And some of you brought up areas of executive function earlier, like emotion regulation and organization. So I want you to remember the reason we work on all of these individual cognitive skills is because these are the skills that actually support strong executive function. And I'm sorry, I got a little distracted because Gail asked, "Can you show the list of cognitive exercises?" And Gail, I am going to show you that in just a moment again. Okay. So the reason we work on all of those different cognitive exercises is because these are the exercises or these are the skills you need for strong executive function. And many of you here are familiar with that term, executive function. And you you know that you can think of it as kind of like the CEO of your brain. It's what allows you to control your attention, your behaviors, your emotions. It allows you to plan and prioritize, organize, avoid procrastination, and remain on task. So it's a set of mental processes that we use every single day to get things done. Now, no one is born with strong executive function, but we all have the potential to develop it. And that development starts right after birth and continues through our mid to late 20s. Unfortunately, we expect everyone to have strong executive function by the time they hit middle school. And that development doesn't always naturally happen. There are a lot of factors that can inhibit that development or negatively affect our executive function later in life. So, what we want to keep in mind is what we know through neuroplasticity, that the brain is moldable, it's shapeable. And if we provide you the right challenge and that immediate feedback, you can create these new neural pathways required for executive function. We know that age is not a factor. We also know that labels like ADHD are not a factor. If we provide you the right challenge and the right feedback, you can create these new neural pathways. And that is the very foundation of play attention. So I wanted to mention that none of these areas, emotion regulation, working memory, organization, they're not just one thing, right? They're a combination of skills. So I think it was Derek who said he wanted to help his daughter develop emotion regulation. And Derek, I'm certain that you have given your daughter some strategies to use, right? And she can maybe after the fact, after the heat of the moment, she might be able to tell you what strategy she should have used at the time. But when those emotions were running high, she had a really hard time using the strategy. So the strategy is there, but she wasn't able to use that because we have to address cognitive skills. So think about the skills that are required for emotion regulation. First, she has to be able to pay attention to the entire situation. She has to be able to process all of that information. She has to control her impulsivity so that she's not just impulsively responding with the first emotion that comes to mind. She has to stay mindful and present so that she's able to calm her internal dialogue. She also has to have strong working memory so that she can draw on prior experiences and evaluate the best response. So, Derek, you may not have thought about that when you're teaching her strategies. That's great, but we have to simultaneously develop skills, focus, impulse control, working memory. These all work together to improve not only emotion regulation, but all of these other mental processes within executive function. So every time you do a play attention session, you're not only developing cognitive control in these individual areas, but you're strengthening executive function. So the course modules that are included in everyone's program, and these are considered the foundations of executive function, include attention stamina. That is your ability to direct and sustain your attention to low stimuli at will. That's the one we looked at. Visual tracking, I recommend that for individuals. Perhaps if you're looking at this for your daughter, you've heard, you know, from the teacher, she does great when I stand right next to her. But as soon as I walk away, she's out the window and out the door, and then she has that diffused attention. So we work on staying focused and visually tracking. It's also great for driving. So you're able to stay focused, visual track, and have a strong reaction time. Task completion. This is a big one. So this is for individuals where 15 minutes of homework is taking 2 or 3 hours, or if you're an adult, you think, I start a million things, I finish nothing. This is going to teach you how to start and complete in a timely manner. Short-term memory. This is your ability to remember dates, names, facts. Filtering distractions, because attention deficit is really a misnomer, right? No one has a complete deficit of attention. The difficulty is you have great attention. You're just picking up bits and pieces of everything. So we're going to teach you how to stay focused to what's important and filter out all of that unnecessary stimuli. And then we have the academic bridge. And we were talking about this earlier when Danny said that their child has a hard time doing tests. And this is a great exercise to do in order to do practice tests. You can do any work that you have to get done for the office. So, this is where we ask you to take all of the skills you've learned and apply them to your actual work. So, you see here, my client is working on his course and he has that body wave armband on. So it's monitoring his attention, but he's working on his university course. And as long as he's in that very attentive state, he'll hear from the computer, good, great. If he starts to drift, he'll hear focus. And then you know he's not in that, or he knows he's not in that state he needs to be in order to process and complete. So this is where we're allowing him to develop that self-regulation and self-monitoring while doing actual work. So Danny, you can incorporate this into test taking because stress and anxiety is not conducive to good attention. So if that occurs during testing, we're going to give them that immediate feedback so they're able to better self-regulate and monitor not only attention, but that anxiety. I hope that helps. If you have more questions on that particular transfer and generalization, let me know. There are also a variety of masterclass modules that you can add on at any time. Those include working memory, that's the ability to hold information in order to complete a task. So if you are finding that you have to reread a paragraph over and over to summarize, that is working memory. Jean says they all sound great. They really are. And there may be a few that you don't need, but they all are critical. And what I typically like to do, Jean, is narrow it down to our top 7 because I don't want to overwhelm you with too many things, knowing that we can turn the others on at any time. So, working memory is a really great one for everything because we need working memory for everything we do. Auditory processing, if you have any challenges following through with multiple step verbal instructions. Hand eye coordination is more about small motor control, so like handwriting, keyboarding. Social skills, if they have any difficulty picking up on social cues. Spatial memory, remembering where things are located. So if you're constantly losing your shoes or your wallet or your water bottle, that's a great one. Mental math for first grade and second grade, addition and subtraction. Motor skills is if you have more bumps, bruises, accidents than your peers. It helps with that mind-body coordination and mindfulness. This is one of my favorites because we hear so much about how mindfulness helps with the symptoms of ADHD or anxiety, and that's true. But we can't look at someone with ADHD or anxiety and say, now I want you to practice being mindful. Because mindfulness is hard. It's hard for all of us, but especially if you have that running mind. So what we're going to do is give you a visual representation of what it means to be in the present moment. So in one exercise, you're going to see a lotus flower in the middle of the screen. Once you have your mind in the present moment, and remember, we're monitoring this with that body wave technology, then you're able to start opening the petal on the flower. If you start thinking, when's my next class? Who do I have to pick up? Who do I have to call? What do I have to get at the store? That petal's going to start to close because you're no longer in the present moment and you have to bring yourself back in order to continue. So these are the variety of exercises that we can put into your program. And like I said, you're going to be assigned a focus coach to assist you. And initially, we'll do an assessment. Now, we can do this in just our ADHD online assessment, which is a variety of questions. Some of you here may have already taken that on our website. But if you would like to do that online questionnaire, just type in test or assessment, either one, and I'll make certain that you get that link because when you fill that out for yourself or your child, you can fill it out multiple times. It will give you a report in your inbox and it will give you an overview of the exercises we recommend for that particular individual. And that's our starting point. Now, if you want a more in-depth look at the individual's abilities, then we do have a couple of other assessments available. One is called Focus, which is a norm reference test of attentional control. It takes 20 minutes, and at the end of that 20 minutes, we receive a full report that tells us how you performed compared to the performance of your peers. So that's more objective. It's data driven. It's dependent on your responses to certain stimuli. So that's available. We also have the brief available, which is a behavior rating inventory of executive function. So that is a series of questions, and it gives us a snapshot of your executive function or your child's executive function on a day-to-day basis. So those additional assessments are options for you. They are $50 a piece, and we would need about a 40-minute block of time afterwards so that we can review the assessment results with you. So a lot of different options for you. Danny says, is it possible for the entire family to do the program? Absolutely, Danny. That's an excellent question. And right now we're running a bundle, Danny, that where usually the home program comes with a user license for two individuals. But for our holiday special, we're including three additional user licenses. So you'll actually have a user license for up to five family members. You can always increase that user license, but that's a great question. And we'll set up a profile for each individual. Okay, so this is your play attention in action. Let's look at an overview. So once you start your play attention program, of course, we ship that body wave armband to you. And initially, you're going to do an onboarding with your focus coach. And that is going to be a practice session just so we can make sure you're real comfortable with everything before you get started on play attention. So we do a lot of hand holding because we want to make certain that you have the best program in place. So once your focus coach takes you through that practice session, typically they'll say, okay, go ahead and do 1 week's worth of sessions, and then let's meet back. And you'll meet back on Zoom, talk about how your sessions went, and set up a time to then continue to follow up. So at the end of the second meeting, they're going to say, okay, Jean, how am I going to keep you on track? Do you want to do a Zoom meeting once a week for 15 minutes? Is it an email? Is it a text message? You let us know what you need from us, and that's the support we will provide. Your support is unlimited. You just let us know what works best for you. Now, when you're doing your sessions, you're going to be doing those independent of your focus coach. And we do recommend that you work at least an hour per week. So if you're doing this in a professional setting with your clients, most of our professionals tend to do two 30-minute sessions. If you're doing this at home as a family, then many of our home clients do 6 10-minute sessions or 4 15-minute sessions. And if you're doing a 15-minute session, that means when you log in, Sheer Genius is going to select three different exercises for that day based on previous performance. So you log in, Sheer Genius will say, okay, Corey, today we're going to work on attention stamina, time on task, and working memory. Not only that, but Sheer Genius is going to set one of those mini goals. So you log in, you do your three exercises, you log out, there's a journal, what I did well, what I'm proud of, and you're done for the day. The next day, you log in, three new exercises, three new mini goals, log out, journal, done. That's kind of the process you'll get into. And you'll start to see good results after about 6 weeks of consistent training. But the research shows in order to gain permanency, in order for us to know that not only will you have these skills now, but you'll have them throughout your lifetime, that usually takes about 40 hours total. So around that 40-hour mark. And so if you're doing 40 hours and you are working an hour per week, I would plan on about 10 months of consistent training. But around that 40-hour mark, you and your focus coach, you're going to look at all of the data. You're going to make certain that you're at all of the advanced skill options, make certain everything's transferred and generalized. If everything looks good, we'll start graduating from the program. If it looks like there's more work to be done, we simply customize the plan and we keep going. So what's important for you to remember is that no matter what, whether it takes 10 months or 16 months, you own the program and your support is unlimited. So we customize, we continue working as long as necessary. And even once you graduate the program, if you want to continue using it for peak performance, you can do that. Your support is always there. So again, in order to maximize your program and get all of those outcomes we discussed earlier, you all had very specific goals you wanted to reach. You're going to meet with that focus coach. You're going to set up a schedule where you're doing your sessions for an hour per week and you can break those sessions up. You'll start to see good results after about 6 weeks of consistent training. but in order to gain permanency. That means lifelong skills you'll have throughout your lifetime. That usually takes about 40 hours. So we do have two different programs available. One, as I mentioned, is the home system. Typically, it comes with a user license for two individuals. But as I mentioned, for Danny, we're giving a holiday bundle, which will include 5 individuals. The professional version typically comes with, or always comes, I'm sorry, with an unlimited user license. So if you're a professional here today and you think I have 25 clients I could enroll tomorrow, you can enroll all 25 of those clients. And as I mentioned, coming soon, actually, the virtual program is starting in January. We're going to have a virtual course for Silver Minds. And Silver Minds, if you weren't here in the very beginning, is the division of Play Attention that focuses on cognitive vitality for seniors. So it really is designed for individuals 50 plus who want to enroll in a course that involves a community and provides you with the 5 pillars required for cognitive health as we age. Just let us know. I really appreciate your time and attention today. We do look forward to working with you in the future, and I hope that you all have a great holiday season. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.